this is an absolutely enormous field. I mean, it's a vast area of countryside. What are you going to have in all this lot?
Well, yes, we are on 500 acres, actually.
500?
Yes. We've 2,300 exhibits, and they come from as far as down in the south at Wade Bridge, and we're up to Aberdeen in the north, and we go across to Swansea and across to Canterbury. The whole idea of this show is to show people how things were designed, built, and intended to work. We don't do flimsy sort of ring shows here.
No.
We make them go through their paces. For instance, over there, we've got 10 road locomotives going to cut that beautiful little road there under the trees.
Yeah.
You'll see smoke and soot and other things going up into the air, 60 feet, I can show you over there.
That's your true enthusiast, Michael Oliver, the man who makes the great Dorset Steam Fair work.
I've been to one or two steam engine events, and I always noticed that when they took off to go home, there was more interest in the engines loading onto the transporters to go home than there was when they were actually performing, just driving around in the ring. And I thought to myself, well, obviously people like to see what they were built, designed and meant to do. And I hit on the idea it would be nice to bring them back into their natural environment.
This is Stourpane, and the great Dorset Steam Fair is underway. Wonderful stuff, steam. You can do anything with it. You can haul things down the road, you can plough a field, you can build a fair, and then once it's built, you can make it work. And the great thing about this place, everything's done for real. The engines do work. You could say the whole story of steam is spread all around you, live, there for you to read, right here in Dorset.
There's steam everywhere you turn, and when you're here, you really feel you're involved with the engine. You can go up to them and touch them, and chat to the bloke at the wheel. But with so much to see, where do you start to look? Well, why not go right back to the very beginning?
The story begins down on the farm. By the 1840s, the farmer had threshing machines such as this. What he wanted was something to power them. There were steam engines at work on the railways, in the mills and the factories, so why not down on the farm? And the manufacturers did exactly that. They provide him with a portable engine such as this. The great wheel turns round, put a belt on it, and it can drive the machine over here. What you can't see is any mechanism for driving the machine itself forward, making it go up and down the country lanes. That's because there wasn't one. The power for pulling it along was supplied by a team of horses fastened on the front here. And a man by the name of Thomas Aveling looked at such a machine, and this is what he said. It is an insult to mechanical science to see a steam engine dragged along by 6 horses. It is as absurd as seeing a steamer pulled by half a dozen sailing ships.
Now, of course, the answer seems obvious. Get the engine to pull itself along. And that's just what happened. The traction engine in all its glory was born. There are enormous, great, powerful machines here. So, what would you call the smallest traction engine at Stourpane? Goliath. Had to be. The owner's Doc Romanis, and what's an eye surgeon doing up to his elbows in grease?
I suppose it's a form of recreation. It's a hobby. And it's something that I used to do when I was a student. I used to go thrashing in order to earn enough money to buy my first transport, an autocycle. And I like going back to those student days. So that's the fundamental reason. There's a certain technical interest in it too. You've got to keep the equilibrium going of the engine, and you've got the lovely smell of the corn that's coming up, and therefore it means that you've got a successful harvest and you won't be hungry. It's all symbolic of very ancient religion as well.
Is there something very special about steam that appeals to you?
Oh, yes. Certainly. Steam, I think, is probably a congenital disease. And like many other congenital diseases, it's not susceptible to being treated or being cured.
That all sounds a little ominous. I'm not too sure I like being told I've got an incurable disease, but I can't disagree with the diagnosis. Certainly not a stomach pain. You see, this is what makes me a steam addict. The sight of a fine old steam engine doing the job it was built for. They're not playing about, not just putting on a show for the customers. The engine's genuinely working hard, driving a threshing machine that's stripping the grain from the straw. And the story doesn't end there. Your grain's now ready to make into flour. But why bother to take it all the way to the mill? You've got a steam engine, so why not bring the mill to the grain? A portable mill powered by steam. You can make your flour right here in the middle of your cornfield. So, that's your grain taken care of. What happens next? Now this is the bit that I really like. Making straw into bales. It's a wonderful machine, like a giraffe at dinner time. I could watch it for hours. It's the same story here in a way, bringing the steam to the site. This is a portable saw bench, and once again they're doing a proper job of work, making fences for the National Trust. Though I tell you what, I'll be counting my fingers at the end of the day. Now, you need pretty hefty logs to make it worthwhile setting up a portable sawmill. And that's where the specialists come in, the lads with the heavy engines. There's a special appeal in the big machines, even if, like Len Crane, you started on a somewhat smaller scale.
From when I was about 4 years old, I had a little methylated spirit little engine on a board I used to play with. And ever since then, I've been interested in anything to do with cogs and wheels. And at sort of 11-year-old, my father bought me an old lathe, and I started making model steam engines that worked on coal, the coal-fired ones. And from then, I graduated to bigger models, quarter-scale models, and then under 5-inch gauge railway engines. And then I started to make a model of this when the firm was sold up in the Midlands. And instead of 3 inches to the foot, the model I was making, I finished it with 12 inches to the foot, the full-size one.
So did you stop there? I mean, is that it?
No. We've got another one since then now. We've got a Burrell crane engine as well, which we're now renovating at the moment.
So where do you go next? I mean, you've got two. Are you going to go on collecting more?
Well, I don't know. See, my name's Crane, and the crane engines fit, don't they? So if another crane engine comes for sale, I might have another one. You never know.
So where do you take it? Does it go anywhere, or...?
Well, we do every weekend. We're all over England, more or less, and we've been over recently to Holland twice and to Belgium, and we've been to Ireland, and in a fortnight's time we go to Germany.
Well, I thought it was only the English who were mad. I mean, do other people get mad about these things as well?
Constantly, yeah, just as mad as us, yeah.
What's the thrill of a thing like this for you? What you get out of it?
Well, I don't know. It's the size of the thing, I think, one thing, and the other thing is that it's dead 1 minute. You light it with a match, you set fire to it, in other words. It all comes to life, bubbles away and squeaks, and little bits of steam come out. It all talks to you, and you oil it, it all starts to work very nicely, and you can drive off. What's better than that?
You may think that I'm driving this machine. I'm not. I'm steering it. Andrew's the driver. He's the man who's in charge. And really, it's a fascinating machine because it's much more like a locomotive you see on the railways than like the lorry you see on the roads. You've got a big boiler producing steam. Pressure gauge tells me coming up towards 150 pounds per square inch. Then you've got everything working. You've got 2 cylinders up at the front here, because you get high-pressure steam coming into a small cylinder. Still got pressure when it comes out, so you think, well, why waste it? So it goes into a larger cylinder, next to it a low-pressure cylinder. The controls, well, there's a regulator here, which decides how much steam goes in, and that decides how fast you go, how much power you get. You've got a reverser, which, as the name suggests, goes backwards and forwards, makes the machine go backwards and forwards. It's a bit more complicated, but we won't go into all that. Lots of other technical things, but those are the main controls, and of course the handle which I turn to keep the thing going more or less straight. And that, as they say, is that. This is an Aveling and Porter traction engine. You can always recognise them by the rampant horse on the smoke box here. But his first engines didn't look like this because nobody had solved the problem of steering. The first idea is to have a pair of shafts coming out the front and a horse to do the steering. But that wasn't very successful. The horse wasn't used to being between the shafts with no load to pull, so it didn't work terribly well. Next idea was even weirder. Big extension and a thing like a boat's tiller. You steered the front wheels, which must have been incredibly hard work. And it was only at the very end, when they came to produce steamrollers, and you weren't going to move a steamroller with a tiller, they came up with this sort of arrangement. A pair of chains on this big circular drum which move the front wheels. And that's what every traction engine has that you can see on the showground today.
Now here's a big, black, powerful-looking beast, but it's not your standard traction engine. It's got this great cable drum slung underneath. To find out just what it is, you have to follow it on its slow, lumbering way to another part of the site. In fact, it's a fascinating specialist machine, or to be more precise, one of a pair of specialist machines. Once it's in position, the engine stops turning the wheels over the ground and starts working that large cable drum. But what exactly is going on here? Well, what you're seeing is the answer to a problem that worried the steam men throughout the first half of the 19th century. How to bring mechanisation to one of the most important parts of farm work, ploughing the land. So, there you are. Our big black monster is in fact part of a complex system that makes up the steam plough. But why was it so difficult to bring steam to this one particular part of farm work? Well, for centuries, the big, patient horses had plodded up and down fields, just as this pair are doing with their harrow, and their wide, flat hooves did no damage to the soil. But you couldn't replace them by a traction engine thundering along, cutting deep ruts. There are some, of course, who wouldn't want to replace these wonderful animals at all. Now, Stourpane boasts a good few quite ancient examples of the horse's modern counterpart, the tractor, where the big tyres prevent damage to the ground. But in between the horse and the tractor came the steam plough. The system was developed using not one special traction engine, but 2. You see, that's how they got over the problem of churning up the earth. They never went over it at all. What happens is this. You have one engine at one end of the field and one at the other, with a cable stretched in between the two, wound round those big cable drums. And it's the cable that hauls the plough along from one side of the field to the other. Simple, isn't it? Mind you, it's not that easy to get everything lined up, but they've done it here all right. You just can't ask to see better steam ploughing than that. I could watch this lot forever, but it's time to take up another part of the story.
Steam on the road did not get off to a very promising start. Just 200 years ago, a man by the name of William Murdoch down in Cornwall invented a steam carriage. It was quite successful, but his boss was James Watt, the great steam king of the time, and he wanted to keep his monopoly, so he told Murdoch, stop your engine straight away. So Murdoch did. He went off and invented gas lighting instead. Then at the end of a century, the next one came along, Richard Trevithick, another splendid engine that unfortunately went to celebrate. And he went into the pub, the engine simmered, and it blew up. Eventually, of course, the engineers got it right, and then bureaucracy got into the act. 1831, the Red Flag Act said a man with a red flag had to walk 60 yards in front of an engine to warn the populace that this dangerous steam monster was coming, shouting out, "Beware, steam engine coming, get out of the way, get the women and children indoors."
Seeing power like this out on the roads sets the blood stirring, all right. But what about the human side of it all? If anyone should know about that, it's Jim Sarney, who organises the big haulage run.
Steam locomotives are as good as the men on the footplate. Something that's alive, something you can feel, and something that you're in contact with physically, both firing it and driving it. The men have got to be physically and mentally in contact with the whole thing. Otherwise, you know, you never do it. All the drivers on these engines have all sort of mentally got to be in contact with one another. And that's how it's all moved, this stuff. What we're trying to do is portray to the people how these heavy loads were moved in the years before the Second World War. And we've got the equipment together now to show people what these engines had to do for a living and the sort of conditions that the men had to work under. Someone said to me today, "Why has it taken you 2 hours to turn this trailer out?" I said, "Because we're doing it how it was done 50 years ago, before hydraulic cranes were even invented. And that's how it took a fortnight to do 14 miles with these heavy loads across rough ground, laying big steel plates down, running the loads over it, picking the plates up, rolling them in front of the trailer and dropping them. And the engines pulled them over them again. And that's how they moved loads on soft grounds. No hydraulic cranes or modern stuff at all. Well, we feel that we have achieved something when we can shift these heavy loads from one spot to another. Of course, we're only doing it as a demonstration today, but I think we realise more than anyone what these men had to go through for a pittance of pay. You know, in pouring rain, snow, gales. They had to keep at it all the time. These men were made of iron, there's no doubt about that. They were a different breed of people to the ordinary man in the street. There's no question of doubt about that.
Start fresh, stay fresh with Seidel, the skincare soap. Seidel's fresh, gentle lather contains a special skin hygiene ingredient to give you that extra cleanliness that banishes most harmful bacteria. Rich, creamy Seidel,
I've been to a few steam fairs in my time, but I don't think I've ever been to one quite like this. It's not just the vast numbers of people. It's not even just the steam. It's an old whiskered cliche to talk about fairs having something for everyone. But at Stourpane, it's absolutely true. There really is something for everyone. Michael Oliver's laid on a great show. But is it really what they say about it? Is it the greatest steam show on earth?
Certainly the greatest locally, I'll give you that. I'm sure we must be now. We've got roughly 2,800 exhibits here, and as you can see, we've only about yards between each of them. We've nearly filled up 170 acres of show ground, so I can imagine there can't be anything much bigger. We've got a record 44 showman's engines here this year, which is a very nice record, really. I thought we'd be lucky to get 40, but 80 fair organs to go with them, and I'm thoroughly enjoying the fine weather because we are noted to get pretty poor luck with the weather, so we seem to have cracked a lot of records this year.
What keeps you going personally?
Well, I think it's quite nice to be big-headed and know what a good job you're supposed to have made of it. And I thoroughly enjoy that. It's much better for people to say they've enjoyed it and things have gone wrong. But I've always been connected with steam engines. My father used to thrash by steam, and I always feel that there's something you've done as a young boy that conjures up nice memories. as I said to a person just now, I imagine if you've ever been in Dartmoor in prison, if you go back there after you've come out on a holiday, there must be something that interests you there again.
So how long are you going to keep going?
Well, the thing is, you know, you seem to get yourself to such a pitch you don't know whether it's day or night or what. And I've not been to bed until about 2 o'clock for the last 6 weeks. And I'm always up before 5. And it's amazing that I don't feel tired. I can't understand it. I said this to a chap just now. He said I could do a 70 like you then in our workshop.
Now, if, like me, you're one of those people who love old machinery, the chances are that you're either looking for a bit for an engine you've already got, or you're looking to buy your very first engine. Either way, you're likely to end up at the auction where a bewildering array of things are on sale. Fancy £12,000 worth of showman's tractor, or a portable engine. Or perhaps one of the more modestly priced objects in the marquee would fit a little better into the family budget.
To a lot of people, this is a load of old scrap iron. But to certain people, this is exactly what they wanted. This is their dream come true, the moment to get that vital piece, that vital implement. I mean, this isn't just an ordinary load of shovels you've got here. This is a whole stoking set for a steam engine. And this, what, lot 360? Oh, well, that's just the sort of thing somebody wanted. 19 valve handles. And this, now, lots of people look at that and say, bit of old rust iron, no use to anybody. That, sir, is a genuine steam whistle. Somebody's going to want that today.
Lot number 6, the Enfield motorcycle instruction books. Thank you very much. 3 or 4. 2 if you wish. £1 for anybody again. 1 I'm being 2 at the back, 2 at the back, 2 at the back, £2, £3, £4, £4, £4, an object at the back. £5, £5. What about it now? £5, £6, £6 over here. £6.
And while the auctioneer's still at it, knocking down the instruction manuals and the steam whistles at bargain prices, everyone else is just getting on with the main business of the day, having a splendid time.
You know, there's something very special about steam. Everybody here looks so happy. You go to a bloke with an engine, and he chats to you with a smile on his face. And he shows you things, he shows you how they work. And all the people who come to look, they all look happy as well. What is it about steam that makes people so happy and pleased to see an old engine? Well, everybody's got their own answer. But for me, I think it's something about the machine itself. Looking back at my telly, there's a lot of wires and things. I don't know what they all are. Don't know what it does. I can't make sense of it. But here, I look at these old engines. There's a man shoveling in coal. The steam comes out. The wheels turn. You can see how it all works for yourself. You don't have to be a genius. And it's all beautiful, beautifully made. These old engines look as if they could last forever. And I really hope they do. They're a joy. In 1897, they finally got rid of the bloke in front, and steam on the road had its chance, and it took that chance. The steam wagon arrived. If it looks like a modern lorry, then that's no surprise, because the old infernal combustion engine truck is simply this with a different sort of engine. It was steam that showed the way. I wish I'd swap my car for one of these.
Mind you, when it comes to other forms of transport, I'm really rather glad that I've got my car.
That's me. Oh. That's the bone shaker. Quite how cycling ever got going when they started on things like this, I can't imagine. It's amazingly difficult to ride. But cycling did get going. It became very popular, especially with the Victorian middle classes. They loved it, but the roads were terrible. And they started to complain, and they had a powerful voice, and the government had to listen. So better roads were needed, and they were supplied, thanks to the new invention, the steam roller.
were my first encounter with steam. When I was a kid, I used to plague the drivers. "Mister, can I have a ride, mister?" The wonderful thing was, I sometimes got it. Mind you, I never saw anything like this on our street. The coffee pot, or if you want to be technical, a 1928 tandem roller. Isn't it amazing? They're like a lot of portly old gents out for a stroll. I know what I like about them, but what's the special attraction for steamroller owners like Barbara Hood?
There's something about them, they're alive. You see, when you've got steam like this, they're alive. They've all got a different character. Every engine, if you walk along, there is something different about them. Even if there's another Evelyn, they are different.
So what's the appeal to you in all the steam world?
The smell. It's surprising. It's a very nice smell.
Think we ought to bottle it as a sort of new aftershave for men?
Yes, that's right. When it's used with the proper coal, we don't even mind the blacks. We don't even mind getting black.
But it is mucky work, isn't it?
It's what we call clean dirt.
Right.
Farm dirt is clean dirt. And so this is part of farming, because I was from a farming family.
Have you got new generations coming along to take over?
Yes. Our youngest son has got a Evelyn as well. He's very, very interested in steam engines. He's driven this one a lot. And here somewhere we've got his son, who's just 6, and he also has been brought up with engines. His first rally here, he was 3 weeks old.
So it's going down through the blood.
He won't miss this. He said, "No, I am going to Stourpane, even if it's school." But luckily for him, it wasn't school. Yeah, so that's hopefully it will carry on for a long time.
So what brings you all the way down to Dorset?
Well, this is the only steam fair like it in the world. It's the greatest in the world.
What's so good about it?
Everything. Everybody comes from all over the country, all other parts of the world to meet here at Stourpane.
I mean, do you give it your spare time to get covered in muck like this?
This is a week's. I always take a week's holiday for Stourpane, especially for Stourpane.
And is it worth it?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I think Brian Wright was probably speaking for everyone who comes to Stourpane. But even he can't spend all his time shoveling coal into engines. There comes a time when the human machine needs refuelling as well. For every ton of coal shovelled into the engines, the crowd shovelled down a few ton of chips. And there were loads of goodies to keep the kids happy as well. Or not, as the case may be.
If there was one group who really appreciated strong tractive power on the roads, it was the showmen, the men who brought the fun of the fair to all parts of Britain. Funny enough, it was an American who first hit the idea of using steam to haul his circus around. That was back in 1859. Then just 100 years ago, that man again, Thomas Aveling, decided the showmen needed a special engine all their own, a showman's engine. Well, this magnificent beast is a showman's engine. It's not the same breed, though. This is from Fowler of Leeds. And being a Yorkshireman myself, I had to get a northern engine in somewhere. And it was originally used for John Murphy's Proud Peacocks. That was the fairground ride. It used to haul around the country. Now, the experts are all going to say, but it's the wrong colour. Engines like this aren't supposed to be blue. They're supposed to be maroon. Well, when John Murphy ordered his engine, he wanted it ready for the start of a season, and Fowlers were late. So it went out in an undercoat. It was supposed to go back for a proper paint job, but somehow they never got round to it, and blue it was, and blue it remained. One of the hardest working engines in the north. And what is it that makes a showman's engine so very special and different from any other traction engine? Well, to see that, you have to see the engine at work. All right, lads?
Now, the first part of a showman's engine's work is no different from that of any other traction engine, hauling heavy loads across country. And it makes no difference to the engine whether it's pulling a threshing machine or a fairground ride. Except, of course, that for a lot of people, a fairground ride seems to be a lot more romantic than a chunk of farm machinery. Especially when, as here, it's a very special fairground ride. Harry Lee's steam yachts. Now, where else but Stourpine could you hope to find a steam-powered showman's engine hauling in a steam-powered fairground ride? It's almost too good to be true. And there, waiting to accept delivery and supervise the whole operation, is Harry Lee himself.
Put your end down, not floor. Right, keep hold of it. Couple them together. Close in a bit.
So now we come to Showman's Engine at Work Part 2, building the ride. And the first stage is to convert the engine into a crane. That takes no time at all. Just a question of attaching the jib and using the power of steam to raise it up into place, ready to start work.
Bit more, yeah.
It's a shame all this goes on before the crowds get here, but it's absolutely intriguing, and I feel very privileged to see it. Now they're starting to get the main frame of the ride into position, which involves a good deal of hard work and a great deal more of expertise. It's something that's no great headache to Harry, who's been doing the same job all through his working life.
Yeah, lower him down to the side. Put your foot in the chain. Put your foot in the chain. Right, put him over to the side.
The music you hear all over the fair comes from fairground organs, and the best of them are powered by steam. The purists might think of the fairground organ as a vulgar, poor relation of the genuine thing, but not the owner of this splendid setup, Mr. Brian Oram.
Well, you see, I started off as a church organist, and I never played to enough people. And I thought it was a lot easier to buy one of these things where I did all my practice at home, and everything came out right at the other end, you see. Now, when you're playing a church organ, you've got to be right every time, haven't you? I actually make my own music now. I have a machine at home for cutting the music, and I have means of setting it and putting the correct notes in the right place, the right registers and that sort of thing.
So when this wonderful music comes out, we're listening to you playing?
Yes, absolutely. Quite definitely me, all the time.
How split? I had no idea.
It's not just Brian Oram on the keyboard, it's Oram family, providing the power that drives the machinery. For this organ comes complete with its very own portable steam engine. And as if that wasn't enough, to have your own fairground organ and your own steam engine, the family take their own travelling home with them wherever they go as well.
I think this is absolutely lovely. It's a genuine showman's caravan of 1895. And of course, this was home to the showman, and it looks like a home, a real genuine home that could move. All the things you'd expect to find. There's a splendid tiled surround to the fireplace, excellent cast iron stove, and I love all this cut glass in the mirrors. It's called the North Star design, very traditional. Really, the showman's caravan goes with everything else on the fairground. It's a part of the whole scene.
The fairground's going full swing now, if you'll pardon the expression, and Harry Lee's steam yachts are there in pride of place, just as they have been in fairgrounds for many years now, and just as Harry remembers them from the old days.
It was the days of the gas lamps, tramcars, and music halls and theatres. People used to come to the fair in hansom cabs, and they spent golden sovereigns and half sovereigns on this machine before paper money was started. I remember my father telling me that. That was before the First War.
But you've always had a steam engine in the middle for the ride.
Oh yes, what we call a portable engine, what was made to part of the machine, that. And that was my plan, to keep the machine original, to never to modernise it.
So this is just as it was in your father's day and granddad's day?
Exactly, yes. All steam powered. The organ as well, organ music, and that's powered wheel, the steam donkey engine at back. That runs by steam.
Who's the gent on top?
That's Johan Strauss, that. the bandmaster, that's what he was modelled off. Johann Strauss, one of the best music makers in the world.
Harry forgot to mention one other steam engine that's still got a part to play. Remember Renown, that brought the ride in and built it up when it got here? Well, it's still here and still working hard. Showman's engine, part 3, generating electricity. This was when the old engines came into their glory. As night begins to fall, they turn the whole showground into a blaze of light and colour. Seen our engines do the lot now, so what's left? There's only one thing for me to do: join in with the fun of the fair, even if my stomach tells me it's not a terribly good idea.
Oh, there's about Sons of Starlight for me. Oh, the machine work by steam. Oh, hey, music by steam. Hey, hey, and it's all a great fun. Woo!
Well, all right, you try talking on that thing. But I did enjoy it, just as I loved the whole fair. And it seems only fit and proper to leave the last words with the man who made it all work, Michael Oliver.
Everybody here is willing to have a go. That's the great thing. I'm sure that we shall have a lot of happy people going home to various parts when it's over. And they're already saying, now get me on that list for next year, boys, because I think they're a little bit concerned that we may not be in a position to take all of them back. But we should fit them in, just about a little bit bigger, I suppose.
Ring out the old, ring in the new, and one of the most exciting events of 1987, a brand new game show called Jigsaw. Test your wits and powers of observation, answering questions and piecing together puzzling jigsaws. So make an extra New Year's resolution not to miss Jigsaw at 4:30 every weekday on Channel 4.
Starting over on ITV in a couple of minutes, another round of that mega game Blockbusters. Well, here on 4 after the break, it's the Kansas City Chiefs versus the New York Jets and the Los Angeles Rams versus the Washington Redskins. In other words, American football.
Fiat introduced the new Regatta. The family